Samanta Chakavalesu Attra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajas Sunantu Sagga Mukkadang Dhammasavana Kalu Ayang Badanta Dhammasavana Kalu Ayang Badanta Dhammasavana Kalu Ayang Badanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Kodhano upanahi ca papamakhi ca yonaro Vipanna ditti mayavi tanjanya vasalo iti. Good evening, everyone. Today we have gathered here on an online platform to listen to a Dhamma talk given by the Buddha, the Enlightened One. The topic I chose is called Wasala Suthra. This is a very significant talk or a sermon delivered by the Buddha, depicting one of the pivotal concepts of his teachings. Rather than emphasizing on what the beings obtain by their birth or about their physical appearances, he was emphasizing more upon the spiritual and the wholesome qualities that one possesses in evaluating the person's qualities or the value. Once the Buddha was going for Pindapata in Savatthi, he approached the house of the Brahmin called Aggika Bharadwaja. He was famous for worshipping the fire and venerating it as a custom of the ancient Brahmins. While the Buddha was approaching, since he had heard that the Buddha was against the Brahmin, was preaching a doctrine against Brahmanism, especially the Vedas, especially going against the view of the self, and was condemning or not praising rituals such as fire worship and so on. So Aggika Bharadwaja became very upset, angry, and out of resentment, he scolded the Buddha and asked him to immediately stop without entering his premises. He said to the Buddha, Tatreva mundaka, tatreva samanaka, tatreva vasalaka tittahi. You bald-headed monk, or you mean monk, and the outcast, you may stay over there. You shall not come to my premises. Then the Buddha questioned him, do you really know who is an outcast and what are the causes that make someone an outcast? So Brahmin was not fully aware of what he said, because out of the customs or the practice that he had, he considered others who were against Brahmanism and who had abandoned the household life and living a very simple ascetic life as outcast or low class people. But when the Buddha, with all his personality, his appearance, questioned him, asked him whether he really knows the who is an outcast, the characteristics of outcast, and the features or the qualities that would make someone outcast. At that time, he was speechless, that he couldn't answer, and he said, yes, I would like to know, and may you preach me so I would able to understand who is a real outcast and the reasons or the causes that would make someone an outcast. This is a very significant moment. Some Dhamma has to be elaborated here. A few moments ago, this was a man who scolded the Buddha, calling him an outcast or a mean monk and asking him not to enter his premises. But suddenly, when the Buddha questioned him, asking whether he really knows about the meanings of the meanings of the words that he uttered, because he said him an outcast, Vasalaka. And Buddha asked, do you really know what is the gravity or the meaning of those words? Then he couldn't answer. And he was asking or requesting the Buddha, to whom he scolded few seconds ago actually, to preach the Dhamma so he would understand it. The commentators explain this as a strange phenomena taking place in the mind of someone who had previous paramis, who had fulfilled perfections, virtues to attain the nirvana. Because when these perfections come into maturity in his last life, or in a life that he would attain liberation, or in a life that would cause a dramatic change in his samsara, especially in the presence of a Buddha, this maturity, when this maturity happens, their minds get melted. Earlier, they may be holding or harboring a certain grudge towards the Buddha out of the wrong views that they were holding into. But suddenly, when the spiritual qualities were maturing and making an effect on their mind, they suddenly go through a drastic change and becomes a very attentive listener of the Buddha. So this was a person who scolded the Buddha with very mean words and suddenly turned into a attentive listener and requesting the Buddha to preach the Dhamma. So then the Buddha said, yes, Brahmin, I know what are the causes of being an outcast and who is a real outcast. So listen to me. Then he preached this very famous sutra, which we term as the Wasala Suthra. The core essence of this sutta is a person's quality or the caste or the class in terms of the Buddha's standards is measured not by the racial status of someone's birth or the appearance someone manifests or due to the relationship he has with some other people. It's solely based on the spiritual and wholesome qualities one possesses. If someone is lacking and oozing certain unwholesome, bad qualities or attributes, characteristics, he is considered to be an outcast in the light of the Buddha's standards. But if someone is showing some good qualities, good virtues, he is considered to be of the high class. The high class was considered as the Brahmins, while the lower class, the untouchables, were called Vasalakas. Now, this was solely based on the birth they had. Because according to the belief of the Vedas, Brahmins were born out of the mouth of the Mahabrahma. Then the Shudras or the low caste ones were born out of the soul of the Mahabrahma. So there is a huge gap between these two castes. So therefore, they always enjoyed a dominating position in the Indian society, while the Brahmins held a dominating position in the Indian society, while the outcasts were deemed to be, unfortunately, reduced to very basic needs, and they could not enjoy the liberty as the higher caste people did. And this was also a form of oppression they used to suppress and maintain the social order as they wanted. But Buddha and it went into a very high level. Even there are historical information saying that if an outcast listened to the Dhamma preached by the Brahmins, their ears were speared by iron rods. So they were not even allowed to listen to certain mantras uttered in Sanskrit. So that much discrimination and social discrimination was existing in the Buddha's era. And Buddha never encouraged this. He never encouraged this. A social system where castes are functioning based on the occupation may serve something to the society, because if people are divided on their occupations and children used to do what the fathers used to do, then normally that was the custom of those days and the society would function properly. But the discrimination that they were showing based on the person's status was never appreciated and acknowledged by the Buddha. So he brought a social revolution in one sense, but he was not causing any rebellions, or he was not plotting or making demonstrations or against the system and was talking to abolish this caste system to the kings. There's no information of him making such persuasion, but intellectually, doctrinal wise, he condemned this discrimination based on the caste system, and he really gave a parameter to judge the person's nobility and the ignobility based on the spiritual qualities. And that is a very important discourse that the Buddha delivered, a parameter. So he according to his standards, there is a real outcast and there is a real Brahmin, and that is not solely based on the birth one had obtained, or not based on the ancestral history one possesses. It's mainly based on the spiritual and wholesome qualities that one would possess. So then this sutta completely illustrates the qualities that would make someone an outcast, and in contrast, we have to understand who would be a Brahmin, a high class person, based on this doctrine. So the first gatha was Khodanoupanahi cha papamakki cha yo naro vipanna ditti mayavi tanjanya vasalo iti. So Brahmin, listen carefully. A real outcast is someone who gets outbursts or angry frequently. A hot-tempered person who would always shout or scold at others, even due to the slightest reason, that I call an outcast. Upanahicha. If someone is holding grudges, very strong resentments, that keeping anger, enmity, such a person is also called an outcast. Papa makki chayo naro. So if someone is disregarding others' good qualities and not acknowledging, purposefully erasing the good qualities of someone, and expressing the bad reputation or speaking ill-mouthly about others, knowing that they have such good qualities and neglecting them, such a person who I call him an outcast. Then vipanna ditti, someone who is holding a wrong view, believing that there is no karma and for his vipaka, for its karmas, there's no next rebirth and there's no good and bad. Such various wrong views, someone is holding into such wrong views, I, Brahmin, call him an outcast. Mayavi, someone who is hiding his real defects, real faults, and showing off something else and deceiving the society, him I called an outcast. Then he said, now this utterance was specially directed toward the Brahmin. The first word, kodano, someone who get easily disturbed and become angry, a hot-tempered person is an outcast. Because the Brahmin, without inquiring anything, suddenly the Buddha was coming to his house to collect alms food, and he had done no fault at all, and he shouted at him out of anger. And Buddha wanted to show that your behavior is in line with the characteristics of an outcast. Then he is uttered, Eka jangva dijangvapi yodhapanani hinsati Yasapani dayanatti tanjanya vasalo iti. If any person harms the living beings, kill living beings. What sort of living beings? Ekajang, ones who have one birth, who have come out of the mother's womb, or who was born spontaneously on wet surfaces. They have one single birth. They came into the world as a one being. With a one birth. But Andaja beings, the ones who are egg-born beings, they, according to teaching, they have two births. What is that? They are first born in the mother's womb, and they come out of the womb, which is considered a birth, but with the egg. So they are inside the egg while they are coming out of the womb. And then they break the shell and make their final birth. So they are considered to have two births. Two births. Even Brahmins were considered to have two births, spiritually, technically, conventionally speaking. But like the Christians who have one birth from the mother's womb, and they also have a sort of a birth when they are being baptized, becoming a real Christian. But these Andaja beings, the egg-born creatures, are considered to have two births, but actually it's just a one birth. It's a way of consideration. So anyone is harming or killing living beings who had single birth or who had double birth, that I call an outcast. So anyone who is harming and killing living beings is considered an outcast. Yohanti parirundati gamani nigamani cha nigahako samanyato tanjanya vasalo iti. So if someone is plundering villages, or they surround the roads, villages and kill the people in the villages and plunder their treasure, that I call an outcast. And if someone is very famous means infamous for their bad behavior, like as robbers, plunderers, killers, such person I call an outcast. So this shows that if someone has no respect to other one's properties or other one's privacy or other one's individual life, that is a person of a low class, and he is called an outcast. So in the previous stanza, he was telling outcast is a person who is harming others, living beings, may it be humans or animals, or killing other living beings. And in the fourth stanza, he's saying that, third stanza, he's saying that if someone is stealing others' property, plundering others' treasures, that one is also called an outcast. Then he said, Game vayadi varanye paresang yang paresang mamayitang teya adinnang adiyati tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is stealing others' property, in the previous stanza he was saying they were doing like planned aggressive plundering of villages. They were attacking the villages and taking their property. But in the next stanza, if anyone is taking away someone's property while others are seeing or secretly, whatever the means it is, if someone is stealing properties, whether it's in the village or whether it's in the forest, a property that belongs to someone else, and he is considered an outcast. Then Buddha said, Yohave inamadaya Chujjamano palayati nahite inamathiti tanjanya vasalo iti. A person who doesn't repay his debts. Some people having taken debts, they are supposed to repay the debts with an interest or maybe without an interest, whatever it means. When the owner asks for the return, to pay his debt, and he says, no, I haven't taken any debts, or he runs away, avoids the owner, such a person is considered an outcast. This could easily happen to people. Sometimes we are unable to face the debt owner because we don't have that financial issue. At that time, we have to be honest and speak with him and express that he is unable to, you are unable to pay it. But if someone purposefully avoiding these debts, because if someone has offered you a debt, that's the actual help, because it was given something that was given in need. Maybe we have to repay it with an interest. That's a different case, because he deserves an interest. The reason is that money, if he had not given it to someone, he would have invested in something and had a bigger, would have increased that money. So instead, he lended it to you, the person, so he could solve his issues in his life. So it should be something it should be something praiseworthy. Offering a debt is something praiseworthy in this regard, even though he's expecting an interest, because he deserves such an interest. So in such a case, while having obtained that benefit from someone, if someone is not returning what he's supposed to give, and if he's avoiding the debt owner, this is a very, very mean act. And the Buddha has said this is a characteristic of a vasala, or an outcast. Yoche kinchikka kamyata pantasming vajatang janang hantva kinchakka madeti tanjanya vasalo iti. Sometimes people, without much expectation, seeing someone who is traversing on a road by his own or without much retinue, and sees something not that much valuable, but some kind of a good, and he feels, I want to take it. So he kills the other person, beats the other person, and steals it. Well, this happens normally while the ones who are in forest and who are hiding in forest and plotting and stealing the people who are traveling alone on forest roads. This was very common on those days. And Buddha said, if someone is doing so, he is considered an outcast. Yo atta hetu para hetu dhana hetu cha yo naro sakki putto musa bruti tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is giving wrong evidence or telling lies in courts, because in a court case, actually, if there has to be someone, the accused has to be either guilty or innocent. But if we are giving some wrong information which would result in someone's disadvantage, maybe the accused would be released, or an honest person who is not guilty would be considered as guilty by the courts due to your confession or due to your evidences. If someone is telling lies when being questioned in the courts, maybe for your own sake, maybe for your beloved one's sake, or maybe for someone else, maybe for for bribes, whatever it is, if someone is lying in the courts when the judiciary issues are being discussed, the Buddha considered him as an outcast, because it's a very mean thing. It is said in our literature that the Bodhisattva, after he had the first proclamation of becoming a Buddha under the Dipankara Buddha's feet, at his feet, it is said that he had done almost all the unwholesome deeds except a few, such as the heinous deeds, such as killing mother and father and so forth. But he had done all the other deeds except lying that would harm the others. He may have lied, like he had done jokes or to save someone else, but he had not done any lie, spoken any lie that would harm others' benefit. That these are called atta bhanjaka musa. That would result in the declining of the others. So he has never done it, because had he done that, he would never be able to understand or realize the truth of the world. which is a very deep phenomena, which he unearthed and understood by himself. In order to understand it by himself with its deepest sense, and also to realize in the true natures of the world in its entirety, with the omniscience, he has to have completed the truthfulness. So therefore, it is a quality that a bodhisattva would never give wrong evidence for whatever reasons during his parami period, after he had become fixed to become a Buddha. So likewise, if someone is giving wrong information and misleading the courts for whatever reason, even for your own life, or for the sake of your own life, he is considered an outcast by the Buddha. Then the Buddha said, Yo ñātīnaṁ sakānaṁ vā dāresu patidissati sahasa sampiyena vā tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is having sexual misconduct, sexual activities, intercourse, with the wives of his relatives or his friends, which is a great betrayal, to the relatives and to the friends. If someone is doing it either by force, by raping the wives, or with their mutual consent, either way, if they are having sexual intercourse with the wives of others, especially the relatives and the friends, he is considered an outcast. Even if he is having affairs with someone else's wife whom he doesn't know, still it is a very, very mean act, which we can call an outcast for sure. But especially if someone is having affairs with the wives of their relatives and the friends, which is a breach of trust, he is considered, deemed an outcast. Then he said, Yo mātarang vā pitarang vā jinnakang gata yubbanang pahu santona bharati tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is disregarding or avoiding his responsibility of taking care of the old parents, the feeble ones, who have reached the old age, who are unable to live by themselves, is considered an outcast. Because as human beings, we surely had the opportunity and grace of our parents. So that's why we are living as full-fledged human beings. Mother took care of us in her womb for 10 months, and we were born out of the body parts of our father and mother. Our Nama Rupa was established on such a surface. And when we were born, we are unable to do anything by ourselves. We are very feeble and very fragile. And it is the parents who took care of us. They took care of us. And it is very important that in everyone's life, at the later stage, we all become weak, feeble, and old. So at that time, we need the support of someone else, as all of us did need the support at our young ages. So it's the parents who gave us that support and protection. So it's very vital as children, when they are in need of our protection, we should be supporting them with any means, all the means that which are possible. If someone is disregarding them or neglecting them, while being capable of supporting, this is considered as an act of an outcast. In this regard, we have to consider, even in a worst case scenario where the parents have abandoned the child in his childhood, still the child is supposed to respect the parents, because the parents still deserve their respect. What is the reason? Because our mind and matter, Nama Rupa, was first arose in this life in the mother's womb, and it depended on two body parts, the sperm and the egg. Sperm from the father's body and the egg from the mother's womb. Even if they didn't have an intention of producing a child, that is possible. Even if this happened out of a rape, Still, the nama rupas, the mind and matter of the child, of the human being, depended on that matter of the father and the mother. So it is like the surface which gave us the birth. If someone is killing such a father and mother, even not being aware they are his father and mother, he will be committing matricide and patricide, which are heinous deeds. So the reason, also we have to consider Angulimala, the infamous rogue who killed, the infamous rogue who killed 999 people, even more than that. He attained arahantship even after killing more than 1,000 human beings. But please keep it in mind, if he had not killed any of them, but just his mother, he would never be able to attain arahantship. So that's the quality of parents towards the children. Therefore, children are bounded to support the parents. Even while they are staying overseas, they have to come, approach them time to time, at least take care of them, and take all the measurements to take care of the parents properly. If someone is neglecting them while being capable, he is considered an outcast by the Buddha. Then Buddha uttered, Yo matarang va pitarang va bhatarang bhagining sasung hanti roseti vachaya tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is scolding his parents, his brothers, sisters, siblings, and the relatives, the in-laws, he is considered an outcast, because such people, because we as human beings are social beings. We are unable to live by ourselves. Imagine in a world where no other human being is living and only we are living. It's impossible. It would be very, very disturbing thought if we are alone in this world and if there's no one else in. It also gives away the purpose of life to some beings. Some may enjoy, the ones who have spiritually progressed may somehow enjoy it and find seclusion and be indulged in their spiritual activities. But for most of the people, this would be the most dreadful experience, one of the most dreadful experiences to have, being alone in a world without society. And also we have to consider that our growth from childhood to the adulthood had lot of support from the society and also from the ones whom we associated, from our family members. We have lot of because if we were grown up in isolation, imagine if someone was grown among the animals, he would never be able to gain this maturity as a human being. There's a very special case study, like actual thing what happened. A child was abandoned and was living with some wolves. It's not about the jungle boy, but actual incident that happened. A child was living with the wolves, so somehow she got lost from his parents for whatever reason, and then she was found many years later, while about maybe she was 12 or 13 years old, and she was behaving like a wolf, a dog. Actually, she was with dog. She was behaving like a dog, and she barked and even jumped at the people trying to bite them, and people took her away and tried to give her proper education of human and tried to train her like a human. But unfortunately, she had gone into such stages that she was unable to completely recover from that animal state. Animal means the state of that low state of the mind, and to learn all the skills of a human being. And she was never able to, I don't know in the end what happened, but it was the scientists were not able to give her that entire training of a human being, because it was too late. Because certain things we need to go through, we have to learn through our childhood and adolescence. So it shows that it's not only your parents, but the entire society that we are living in has contributed to us in one way or another for our living. And therefore, if someone is specially scolding his inner circle, his family members, father, mother, siblings, and the in-laws, is considered as an outcast by the Buddha. Yo attang pucceto santo anatta manusasati paticcannena manteti tanjanya vasalo iti. If when someone is being questioned, especially the ascetics or the religious leaders, when they are being questioned about certain issues related to the life and the world, if they are giving wrong information or giving certain advices that are detrimental and harmful to one's life, to one's sansara, this is considered a characteristic of an outcast. And also, when students are coming to learn from a teacher, if teacher is keeping some information, knowledge, and does not give all the information, is keeping something with him, like it's called guru mutti, like when you are hiding something on your palm, fingers folded, the others cannot see it. If someone is giving the knowledge, one's knowledge, having kept something for himself, this is a characteristic of an outcast. It was Buddha who, when whatever it was necessary for the Savakas to learn, he had preached it without any envy, any stinginess. He always liked to give whatever he knew to the others. So if someone is giving wrong advices, harmful advices, and keeping the knowledge for himself without giving everything to the students, he is considered as an outcast. Yo katva papakang kammang mamang janyati icchati yo paticcanna kammanto tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone has done evil deeds and wishes that no one know about it, and always hides his evil deeds, and behave like he had done nothing and like a virtuous person, this person is considered as an outcast who is deceiving the world and who is living a second life under this back of the screen. Yoche para kulangantva, yove para kulangantva, bhutvana suci bhojanang, agatang ne pati pujeti, tanjanya vasalo iti. Some people, having visited others' houses, having enjoyed their treats, especially delicious food, on occasions when those people come to their house, do not treat them properly. Give something like something low or something not delicious, and do not give a similar treatment purposefully. Maybe if someone doesn't have that economic standards or capacity, he may treat him differently according to his capacity. But if someone is purposefully neglecting or disregarding the support, the treat that he got from the other house, if he's not doing a similar treat or trying to treat them well, this is considered as a cast of a characteristic of an outcast, because it shows the lack of gratitude. Yo brahmanang va samanang va sanyang va pi vanimbakang musavadena vancheti tanjanya vasalo iti. When a Brahmin or a Shramana ascetic or any other beggar or someone who is asking for something had come to him, and he deceives them by saying lies, like while he is capable of offering them something and supporting them, he deceives them saying that he is incapable of doing this and those, and he is considered as an outcast. Yo brahmanang va samanang va bhattakale upattite roseti vacha nachadeti tanjanya vasalo iti. While eating, having food, someone, a Brahmin or an ascetic, comes to his place. Instead of sharing something, maybe the food that he's been eating or some other food, instead of sharing it or giving them some treatment or giving them some treat, he blames the people who had come for begging for food. Begging for food means Especially these are the Brahmins and the Samanas who are going for Pindapata. They are not asking for food. They are waiting. If someone is willing to offer, they would accept it. In such a scenario, if the person is blaming them for coming on at such time, that is considered an quality of an outcast. Asatang yoda pabruti mohena paliguntito kinchikang nijiginsano tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone who is deceived by the delusion and deceives others, giving some wrong information with the expectation of getting something, especially giving wrong predictions, knowing that he is without knowing it correctly, but for the purpose of earning money or earning something, praise and gain. If he deceives others, gives wrong information, this is considered act of an outcast. Especially the ones who are or the fortune tellers and then they're doing the predictions. If they're doing it wrongly, purposefully, without knowing the subject properly, then he is considered as an outcast because he's deceiving the people by giving wrong information in order to earn money. Yo chattanang samukkanse parancha mavajanati nihino sena manena tanjanya vasalo iti. Someone always praise themselves and keeps them in a higher position while looking down on others, insulting others and showing that due to his ego, keeping himself in a pedestal and looking down upon others, always insulting others, and this person is considered an outcast by the Buddha. Rosako kadariyo che papicho machari satho ahiriko anuttappi tanjanya vasalo iti. Someone is blaming others, like always scolding others, and who are not encouraging or discouraging the people who are making donations to others, who are driven by evil desires, who are not enjoying sharing their wealth or giving something what is possible to others in terms of charity, and who are showing off good qualities that one does not possess, showing off the quality that he does not possess, and who has no shame in unwholesome deeds or no fear in doing unwholesome. He is a person the Buddha calls an outcast. So, if someone is not involved in dana and also does not appreciate when others are giving, who are driven by evil desires to gain praise, gain and so forth, and who have evil desires to fulfill, and who is always blaming and shouting at others, and who has no shame in moral shame and moral dread, such a person is also called an outcast. Then Buddha said, Yo buddhang paribhasati athava tassa savakang paribhajang gahattang va tanjanya vasalo iti. If someone is called in the Buddha, the enlightened one, or his disciples, either ordained or lay, because Buddha is a person who got enlightened and who do no harm to anyone else. Following his doctrine would never give any disadvantages or harm to the people. Even being so, some people still blame him, insult him, his disciples, because Buddha and the disciples are a blessing to the world. If someone is insulting them, blaming them, he is considered an outcast because they are a wonderful group of people who are only benefiting the society in terms of spirituality and quenching the fires of hatred, quenching the fires of lust and excessive wanting, desires. So they are an actual blessing for the society. even though they are supported by the society and they have very less needs if they are following the doctrines properly. In such a case, if some people of such, if someone is blaming or insulting the teachers and disciples and monks and disciples of such caliber, he is considered as an outcast. There's another way to explain this. Another definition or rendering into English would be one who blames the Buddha and his disciples, or any other ascetic who has given up the household life, who are following correct doctrine, accepting karma and vipaka and so forth, and they are disciples. If someone is blaming such ascetics and their disciples, he is also considered an outcast. Then the final gatha was Yove anaraha santo arahang patijanati choro sabrakma loke sabrakma ke loke esako vasala dhamo ete ko vasala vutta mayavo ye pakasita. Then he said the utmost outcast person out of all. Now, till now, he was telling the features of outcast and naming such and such person as an outcast. And he said, Wasala Dhamo, among the outcasts, he's the foremost. He's the worst person that you can ever find. Who is it? A person who claimed to be an Arahant while not be an Arahant. Knowing that he has not destroyed the cankers. He's expressing that I have destroyed the cankers for the sake of gain and fame. That's what we do. That's what they do. If someone is claiming that attainment that they had not attained or not achieved, that is only done to showcase himself and to gain the praise and gain and the acknowledgement, the recognition of the society, which is something that he doesn't deserve actually. It's something he doesn't deserve. There are few types of choras in this regard. Some monks is considered as a chora or a thief. Some monks, the purpose of gaining fame, get or make lots of disciples, ordain lots of disciples, is not for the sake of sustaining of to sustain the sasana, but to be prominent in the society as a great teacher. Then, having gathered his disciples, he wanders in villages and towns on those days and show the people that what type of a retinue he has, followers he has. So he is considered as a one mean person or a chora by the Buddha. Then someone enters into the sasana, studies the Dhamma, and goes to faraway districts and preach this Buddha's teachings. When the people question, how did you understand? From whom did you learn this Dhamma? He claimed that he understood this Dhamma by himself. And he doesn't acknowledge or point the real origin of this teaching. And he is a person who steals this Dhamma. He is also considered as a thief here. So then, if someone is accusing another virtuous monk out of parajikas, claiming or challenging him or criticizing him that he has accusing him of parajikas, claiming that he doesn't have the proper monk status. If someone does it baselessly, knowingly, he is also considered as a thief because he's stealing the virtues of the other person. Another monk sometimes distributes the Sangika property to the lay people while not being capable of doing so, especially thinking that I have the ownership of my temple and offer the Sangika property to lay people, and he is also considered as a thief. But Buddha said, out of all these thieves, there is one among more than all these four thieves, there is someone who is considered as the foremost among the thieves. And who is that? Someone who steals the supernatural, supramundane, sublime qualities, spiritual qualities, who claim to have attained jhanas while have attained, who claims to be an arahant while not being so. So if someone is falsely claiming their supernatural or spiritual attainments, especially supramundane and the sublime attainments, he is considered the biggest thief. He is stealing the supramundane realities while not possessing, and he's trying to gain the gain through by showing that he's one of them. So he's considered as the greatest thief and also the foremost among the outcasts. Then he uttered, having said all these around 30 plus qualities of a Wasala, then he said the very famous stanza in our sasana, which has been uttered by many people on to show that the Buddha was against the discrimination based on the caste system. What did he say? Najajja vasalo hoti, najajja hoti brahmano, kammana vasalo hoti, kammana hoti brahmano, najaccha vasalo hoti, najaccha hoti brahmano. Jacha means jatiya jacha, by birth. So he said to the Brahmin, having said all these qualities of a Wasala, I clearly state that a person is not an outcast by birth, not by means of the family he is born into. And also, a person is not a Brahmin or a great being just because by his birth. One becomes a real outcast, a low-class person, and a Brahmin, a high-class person, because of his actions, of his behavior, of his virtues, not in the virtue of his birth. And this was a very significant message given to the society, and he was giving it to all the Brahmins and also the outcasts, saying that I'm not going to categorize you all into this social status or classes based on the birth or the family you were born into. I'm going to classify them only solely based on your actions. And this is a very interesting moment in the history of human history as well. Rather than clarifying or classifying the beings based on external factors such as the appearance, sometimes people are discriminated based on the skin color. Some are based on the nationality. Some are based on the race. Some are based on the occupation they have been doing. But Buddha said the parameter to define the class. Normally we say low class and high class. And also we have a word called classy people. That is called people who are of high good qualities. They are of the high class people. The noblemen. Normally the noblemen have very special etiquettes, and also they have customs. So it shows that they are normally they can be recognized very easily from the ill-behaved people. So it's good if someone of a noble family is still behaving well, he should be praised about that. If someone of a low class is ill-behaving, he should be dispraised of his behavior. So Buddha never said person of the lower class, social lower class are good, or the social higher class are bad. No. He's not saying whether a real Brahmin by birth is good or bad. There can be good Brahmin and there can be bad Brahmin. There can be good Vasala caste, the low caste ones, and untouchables, and there can be bad untouchables or good untouchables as well. But the parameter, the utmost parameter of deciding the class according to the Buddha's teachings is the karma, not the birth. It's not the birth. Because when we are talking about a human being, we have two aspects. That is the material aspect and the immaterial aspect, which is related to the consciousness. So we cannot just define a person only based on one aspect. Especially the inner aspect of consciousness is the real essence of a living being. Even though there's no self, but there is something going on here. And we define and term that person as a being or a living being. So in that, the main element of a living being, conventionally speaking, a living being, the main element is the mind element. Rupa is just an appearance that he gained through past karma and also affected by the weather conditions and the food that he's consuming. But the main essence rests on the immaterial realm, which is on the consciousness. Family backgrounds, the womb he was in, the adapted, the family he lived, the area he lived, the schools he went into, the school he went into, status of the relatives, they are all secondary. A person's class is solely depending on his good and bad qualities in the consciousness, because that is the main element of someone's life. So the quality, so while people were defining the class based on external factors, and some even with the appearance, because according to some historians, when the Aryans invaded the Indian peninsula, the subcontinent, and they had a fair skin color, and while the Dravidians or the ancient people who were living, occupying that land had dark skin color, and that was the basis for this discrimination of dasas and the noble beings. Some historians claim so. So skin color was a very special reason for the discrimination, and it still happens in some Western countries as well. Because it's something very difficult to avoid. Because a fair skin color, we always possess a bias towards them that they are good. While the bad or dark skin color, we always naturally harbor certain doubt in them. That's also something happening in our psychology. But still, the Buddha said, even the appearance of the skin color or appearance, physical appearance, is still not the main component of someone's life. The main component of someone's life is how the consciousness is functioning, how is handling the situations, what type of virtues someone is adorned with. It's not the ornaments that we wear in our body, on our body. It's the virtuous qualities, the spiritual qualities, wholesome qualities, that which adorn our mind, what matters. So this stanza was the nail on the coffin of what is said so far. He defined the people, the outcast, based on certain behaviors. And he said, Brahmin, even though you believe so, a person is not an outcast based on his birth. A person is not an outcast based Brahmin based on his birth. It's solely based on the actions that one does. Kammuna vasalo hoti, kammuna hoti brahmano. Then he gave an example. Tadaminapi vijanata yatame dang nidasanang chandala putto sopako matango iti visuto soyasang paramam patto matango yang sudullabhang aganyung tassu pattanang kattiya brahmana bahu so devayana maruiha virajang so mahapatang kamaragang virajetma brahmalokupago ahu nananjati nivaresi brahmalokupapattiya. So he said, in the ancient days, olden days, there was a person called Matanga who was an outcast and who was in a clan in which dogs were eaten to quench the hunger. They were eating the meat of dogs, which is not considered as, which is normally disgusted by most of the cultures in the world. There are some cultures who eat dog meat, but majority would not appreciate that. So those outcast people, had no such fortune, and they were eating eating dog meat. So Chandala Putto Sopako Matango iti Visutto. He was known as Matanga Pandit, Matanga. Then later on, it's a very nice story which I'm not going to relate today. A Matanga Pandita Jataka, and he somehow obtained a wife from a very high class family, and then seeing the misfortune she fell into, he went to the forest and meditated and attained the jhanas, and he was showing the psychic powers, and he was doing all the miracles, and she also, his wife also got all the praise, and Matanga was highly praised by people in the entire Jambudipa, and even kings respected him. So that's why they say, So Yasang Paramam Patto Matango Yang Sudullabang. He attained a fame which is not easy to be attained by anyone, not even by kings. He was venerated by kings. In the beginning, he was born in a very low caste family, because he came from the moon and showed the world, and people thought he's the actual Brahma even. But he had that psychic powers. So he was, even the Kattiya Brahmanas came to attend him and to serve him. So he attained the jhanas, which are the vehicle to the Brahma world. And having abandoned the lust, he was born in the Brahma world. And Nanan Jati Nivaresi Brahma Lokupapatya. He was not prevented by a birth in the Brahma realm after death, because by his birth. So birth is not going to prevent. Birth is not going to do anything to us, because it's not something relevant here. If you have done the good deeds, he'll be born in the good realms. If someone has done bad deeds, he'll be born in the bad realm. He'll get the ill consequences, regardless of the birth. That's the point here. So then the Buddha said, Ajayaka kule jata brahmana mantra bandhuno teva papesu kammesu abhinnamupadissare ditteva dhamme garaiha samparaye jadungating nate jati nivareti dungacha garhayava. If a Brahmin of high class is seen doing also all unwholesome deeds such as sexual misconduct, stealing, and so forth regularly, his birth is not going to prevent him from the accusation, from the ill reputation. He will be condemned by the society, regardless of his birth, if he's doing ill deeds. That's what normally we see among the politicians. Sometimes people are disregarding, even though they are from high classes. If the people find out they're false, they will be blamed for that. So the society, the majority of the society would praise a person who has high qualities and who would dispraise a person who has bad qualities, doing bad deeds. So Buddha said, if even a Brahmin is doing all the bad deeds, he would not be able to escape from the social criticism, and he would never be able to escape from the suffering in the following life. So he said, he will be accused in this very life, and he would suffer in the coming lives. And his Brahminship or Brahmin status or Brahmin family, his status of being a Brahmin, having a Brahmin birth, is not going to prevent him from birth in a bad destination, and also the disrespect or the ill reputation in this very life. And also we have to keep it in mind, even an outcast who is behaving badly, nothing is going to prevent him from being born in the wrong bad realms and the dispraise or the ill reputation. And a Brahmin who has lived a good life would surely be highly praised, and also he will be born in a good realm. And his birth is not going to do anything. Then the Buddha confirmed this, saying again, Najajja vasalo hoti, Najajja vasalo hoti, Najajja hoti brahmano, Kamana vasalo hoti, Kamana hoti brahmano. I repeat, Brahmin, I repeat it again. One is not an outcast by his birth, and one is not a Brahmin by his birth. One is an outcast solely because of his actions, and one is a Brahmin solely because of his actions. When this was said, Aggika Bharadwaja Brahmin was elated, and he praised the Buddha, saying that today I saw the reality and you showed me the path. You showed me something that was hidden. You opened it up, which was hidden. And so from today onwards, I would be a follower of Bhiksamana Bhavat, Samana Gautama. So that's how the Wasala Sutta ended. So this is a very nice sutta saying that, illustrating who is a real outcast and who is a real high class person. So in this regard, we should be able to consider ourselves. We are not able to sometimes change the social status or social hierarchies or the social norms, because it's not in our within our scope. But the first thing is, if someone is born in such outcast families, socially speaking, you have to accept that because I was born in that. Yeah, that's not an issue. But the person's dignity solely depends on one's mental aspect, not the physical appearance and not the social status. So if someone is living a wholesome life, a virtuous life, regardless of his birth, he would reach the highest level because of his talents, because of his virtues, because of his wholesome deeds. And the best example that we can have in India is Dr. Ambedkar, who was of a different caste, lower class, but who ended up writing the Constitution of India, which is considered and one of the foremost documents in the human history, which is a very significant constitution as we consider. Now, that great responsibility, mammoth task, was given by the society, by the leaders, to the person who deserves it. The birth was not going to affect it. Socially, there can be discrimination. That's how the society works. But when people are in need, when countries are in need, they need the support of the real talent, not the birth of someone's life, not the appearance of someone. Appearance may sometimes be useful in some occasions, but the talent is what matters. So if someone has developed his talents and gone forward in the society, earn all the degrees, education, qualifications, he would get the opportunity. There's a nice saying: when the flower is fragrant, you don't need to put any effort to show that there is a flower. The wind itself will take the fragrance, and people around would feel it, would smell it. So in the same way, when we have developed our good qualities, one day or another, yes, if the social hierarchy is ill-managed or ill-structured, sometimes there can be great obstacles for a lower class person to reach the heights. That's samsara. Because all of us go through this process. Even the Bodhisattva, who had done enormous merits throughout the samsara, who even dedicated his body parts for the sake of others and accumulated all the possible great merits a human being could, was born as an outcast in one of his lives. He attained jhanas and got all the respect. But low caste births are natural in our samsaric lives. That's natural for everyone. Even to a bodhisattva it is possible. So we have to always consider as Buddhists that this is just a one life. And even within that life, according to Buddha's standards, our quality, real class, is not decided by our birth or by the appearance. Even the society accepts or not is a secondary thing. First, we have to acknowledge ourselves and know that we, as long as we cultivate good qualities and virtuous spiritual attributes, we will be upgraded. Naturally, we will be in the category of the good people. If we are to meet the Buddha, surely he would praise us for our good qualities that we possess and have cultivated. So first we have to have our own confidence and develop the talents, the skills that we need. So some social hierarchies would prevent us from achieving that. But there will be a time that our qualities, characteristics, our skills will be recognized. The scale may change from person to person. Sometimes we will be beneficial or useful, maybe to an organization, to a village, to a city, sometimes to a country, like as it happened to Dr. Ambedkar. But it depends on many situations. But if someone has developed good qualities within themselves, one day or another, they will be recognized by the society. Even if the society is so ill-functioned that they do not ever recognize themselves, but we will always keep it in mind. If the Buddha was alive, he would recognize us. And also, there are noble deities in the world that they would recognize. And especially, what matters is our own recognition about ourselves. Because it has to be it is the self-dignity, the self-confidence that we have to have. So, this is a sutra that ones who are born in a lower caste should take as a reason for self-confidence. Whatever the society says, the omniscient being who is the enlightened person, who was from a Kshatriya family, who was a Sakyan, a very renowned class of the ancient India, recognized a person's dignity, a person's class is solely based on virtue, not on birth. So Buddha was not the Buddha because he was a Sakyan, not because he was a Kshatriya. He was Buddha because of the qualities that he developed through the samsara and fulfilled, completed under the Bodhi tree. So according to his style, we should not be worrying about the social hierarchies which are injustice. What matters to us is if the most wise person in the world had recognized us. Recognize means it's not he recognized the people of the lower caste. It's not that he disregarded the people of the higher caste. No. He recognized the person with good qualities as a high class person. He disregarded a person with bad qualities as a lower caste person. The birth is irrelevant here. Whether he's high class or lower class, it doesn't matter. A high class person doing bad is regarded as an outcast. A high class person, high class person doing good deeds is considered as a high class person. An outcast or a low caste person doing bad deeds is considered an outcast by the Buddha. A low caste person doing the good deeds is considered as a high class person. So we have to, just being in the low caste, it's not that someone who is born in the low caste become high class because of Buddha's teaching. No. It's just because basically based on our good virtues. So we have to develop these good virtues and to be apart from the qualities of an outcast which were taught in this Wasala Suthra, to be aware, not to fall into those categories, and to do the opposite and do the wholesome things and support the other people and to cultivate all these loving and kind, even to the people who are harming you, even to the people who have created this ill social network. Only when we have loving kindness towards them, and we have good virtues, that is the characteristics of a good person. That is how one becomes of a person of high caste. For that, we have to have endurance, patience, loving kindness, broad vision. How do we consider about the people who are the architects of an ill-mannered society? We have to consider they did it out of their wrong view. And we have to feel pity about them because their lives ended as anyone else's. But creating an ill-structured society would make them in their karma vipaka nature that would give them a high possibility of being born in the low caste of the society of which they are the architects. That's how the karma works. So we have to have very compassion towards them, because they are enjoying this status only in this life. But if they are to be born in the human realm again in these societies, the societies of which the structures were made by them, they will be born in the lower. That's how lower caste, that's how the karma works. If someone is disregarding others, egoistically discriminating and looking down on others, they will be born in the lower caste in this society. So therefore, if we have to have compassion towards the people who are the architects of this. Maybe it was we who made this architect. We were the architects of the ancient world. It's also possible. Sansara is such a mess, actually. Such a mess. So what we have to have is compassion and the broad-mindedness about the world, and also about the people who are leading the wrong or giving the wrong example to the world, and also ones who are doing this discrimination. Because if we are having anger towards them, if we are hating them, then we are bordering the outcast realm. Because Buddha said, Kodano upanahicha. If we are having grudges towards, even towards the social class, we are not acknowledging it. We are surely showing our disagreement, distaste towards it. But if we are having enmity, if we are unleashing our anger towards them, that is, we are also going back to the outcast realm. We are going to the outcast. So in order to come out of it, in the Buddha standards, there's nothing other than developing virtuous qualities, even towards the ones who are doing the evil. That's very important. Buddha was such a person. When Devadatta was doing all the harm, he still had the compassion towards him. It's not having compassion is not to acknowledge whatever he does and to tolerate everything. Buddha, even when the Chabbagyas and Devadatta were doing wrong, he took the measurements to protect his sasana. So we have to raise our voices and to show our disagreement about the ill-structured societies, but with a calm mind, with a wholesome mind, without enmity. It means then we are cultivating the wholesome qualities. So in the Buddha standards, going into the higher class needs high standards, high virtual qualities, spiritual qualities. So, and while developing these spiritual qualities, one should gain the confidence knowing that whatever the world says, I'm in a higher class according to the Buddha's standards. That's the quality that we as monks develop. Whatever education qualifications we have, whatever social status we are, and whatever the background we are coming into this, from which background we are coming to this asana, since we are observing a higher virtue, since we are developing a higher concentration, since we are developing higher wisdom, we are confident about ourselves that we are living a correct life. Whether the social society accepts us or not, whether when we go to Western world, whether people pay respect to us or not, when we are in a different society, whether people insult us or not, doesn't matter to us, because we know our standards. So that's the confidence that one has to have in order to get out of this vicious cycle. Let the society be in its place. If possible, we'll try to change it. But we should never give up our wholesome spiritual qualities. Because even for such social revolution, to take part in such a social revolution, we should not be abandoning our Brahmin qualities. What are the Brahmin qualities? Opposites of Vasala qualities. Loving kindness, generosity, supporting others, caring of others, sympathetic joy. All these good qualities have to be cultivated. So even we are going against this ill system, we should not be abandoning the good qualities. Because then, throughout the whole process, we'll be in the high class and the class of Brahmins. So That's a very interesting topic to be discussed, and I hope all of us will be able to be Brahmins in the according to the standards of the Buddha, under the shed of the light the Buddha had put on. May all of us be able to give up all the outcast qualities and to attain the qualities of Brahmin and be real Brahmins, be people of the high class according to the standards of the enlightened being. Would like to share the merits with all the deceased beloved ones of the ones who listen to this Dhamma talk. May all of them be happy, free from suffering, and finally attain the liberation of nirvana. And also all the deities who are protecting the sasana, protecting your individuals, and also who are living in this monastery, may all of them rejoice on this great merit of the Dhamma preaching of the Wasala Suthra, and may their divine pleasures enhance, and finally may they attain the final liberation, having protected the Buddha's teachings. And may all the living beings rejoice on this merit, and finally may they be happy, healthy, and finally attain the final liberation. May all of the, and also the ones who listen to the Dhamma talk, may all of you be happy, successful in this very life. Whatever the mundane endeavors that you are pursuing, may all of them be successful like the full moon on the 15th, and may you attain all your wishes and in completion, and may you not be satisfied only with the mundane happiness, but also focus on the spiritual happiness as well. May all the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the requisites of enlightenment, would grow day by day. May you be able to be born in good destinations in samsara, with the among the good friends, with the correct view, and also a three-rooted birth. And finally, may all of you be able to attain the liberation of nirvana as soon as possible. So we may share the merits by uttering the gathas, and please recite after me. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. The merit is shared with the relatives. Now we shall share the merits with the deities. Akasatta cha bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditma chirang rakkantu sambuddha sasanang. Akasatta cha bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditma chirang rakkantu sambuddha desanang. Akasatta cha bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditma chirang rakkantu sambuddha savakang chirang rakkantu tvang sada. May this merit help us to avoid all the bad friends and to associate the good friends who would lead us to do good deeds for good destinations and also for the final liberation. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. May this merit helps us to attain the final liberation called asavakkaya by eradicating all the defilements. Idam me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idam me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idam me punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Sabba dukkha pamuncatu.